My name is Mike, and this is Guns and Horsepower. Thank you for joining me for today's video, where I share with you my 4-year cost of ownership on my 2010 Porsche Panamera S. For those of you that are new to the channel, welcome. And to my many subscribers, thank you very much for sticking with me. It's been a few months since I've made a video. Well, I'm back now. Let's go ahead and get started. Alright, well, this video is the second in the series documenting my cost of ownership with my 2010 Porsche Panamera S. I purchased it almost 4 years ago now, and I have another video where I document what I spent on it in the first 3 years of ownership. So in my first 3 years of ownership, I spent $3,355 on the car. That includes maintenance items like spark plugs, ignition coils, oil changes. I bought a scan tool to reset the service intervals, a set of aftermarket front brakes that didn't end up working out. But there was also a few other items that I bought instead that weren't necessarily required, but they're things that I wanted to do to the car. For instance, I changed the mufflers and the tips. I put a BMC racing air filter in, and I put on a new set of tires. I went through the set that had come on the car, and I decided to go ahead and put some Michelins on there. Well, now another year has gone by, and I got a grand total for you for this 4 years of ownership. Now in this year, the 4th year of ownership, I've had to change the gas cap, the 2 hood struts, and I went ahead and changed all the brakes, brake pads, rotors, brake sensors, and caliper bolts. And I also did an oil change. Now I did all this work myself, and I bought the parts online for a grand total of $840 spent this year. Add that up with my first 3 years, we have a total spent of $4,195 on the car. That probably seems like a lot to you, and it does to me as well. That's over $1,000 a year average. That's a lot more than, say, a Civic or a Camry. And that's more than what I really expected to be spending on the car. But to kind of put it in perspective for you, some of those purchases are one-time purchases, and they were elective purchases that I won't have to make again. For one, the scan tool, that was a one-time purchase. I won't have to make that again. Changing the mufflers and tips, that was something that I wanted to do. It wasn't necessary, but we can take that out of the equation. And then buying the Michelin tires for $1,200. I could have bought some cheaper no-name tires for about $800 a set. So if you figure in those factors, and then the aftermarket brakes that I put on the front to deal with a squeaking problem, I could have skipped doing that, saved a few $100s there. So grand total, without all the extra stuff that I spent on the car, comes out to being $2,700 over these last 4 years. Now that seems pretty respectable, if that's including a set of tires, a set of brakes, ignition coils, spark plugs, oil changes. So that's not too bad right there. $2,700 is what it could have been the bare minimum spent on this car. But I decided to do some upgrades, buy better tires, and I spent a little bit extra. That's why I came up with the $4,195 is what I spent on it. But just to point out that you could have only been $2,700. And if you look at that number, the ownership cost of this car is really not that bad. So you could have kept it down there, and it would have been rather economical to own this car. Now let's get into some additional costs associated with the car that I didn't cover in my first video on the first 3 years because I figured it was kind of different for everyone, but people started asking me questions about it, so I guess I'll go ahead and cover it here. First up is insurance. I pay $1,200 a year for the car, so it's $100 a month. That's for about 10,000 miles driven a year. So I mean, that's going to vary for everybody depending on your driving record, of course, and where you live. But just to give you perspective, for me here in Southern California, I'm paying $1,200 a year, which I feel is not too bad for a car like this. And now for fuel costs, you know, if this car doesn't get the best mileage, I average about 18 miles per gallon, which comes out to about $180 a month I spend. So that gives me a yearly total of $2,160 a year. Now that's obviously the largest expense right there is fuel. And that's going to vary for everybody. The more you drive, the higher it is. I mean, right now down here, it's almost $5 a gallon, so that price is very inflated. But for you people living in other states where you're not paying these crazy gas prices, it could be a lot less. So that varies for everybody. But just to give you an idea. Well, there you have it. I just wanted to share with everybody what it has cost me to own and drive this car over the last 4 years. You know, I haven't had any major breakdowns. Thank you. Keep my fingers crossed. I hope that continues. It's just been some basic maintenance items. Other than the brakes and tires, everything has been relatively cheap and simple to fix. Like I said, I'm doing the work myself, so I'm saving a ton of money there. You know, granted, if you were to take it somewhere, you're going to probably add another $2,000 to those totals to have the work done somewhere else. So being able to do the work yourself is key in owning a car like this. Unless you have deep pockets and you can take it to the dealer and just drop thousands of bucks every time. But I don't have those kind of deep pockets, and I definitely don't want to throw my money away. That's how I got a Porsche like this in the first place, is being wise with my money and getting the most for it. Well, this car is coming up on 12 years old now, and when I purchased the car, I knew I was taking a risk. You know, I'm buying an older German car, an older Porsche. I knew there's a lot of issues that could go wrong. But the car had low miles, it was well taken care of, and I know I can do most of the work myself, so I figured it was worth the risk. So far it's paid off. I haven't had to do anything serious to the car. I keep my fingers crossed. I hope it stays that way, no major malfunctions. Everything has been just routine maintenance and replacing things that have worn out, and I hope that it continues like that. I drive the car daily. I mean every single day. I don't have another vehicle at the moment, so this is my main car. I go to work in it, I pick up the kids, I do everything in it. So this thing stops and starts, I don't know, 30, 40 times a day, and it has performed flawlessly. The ownership of these last 4 years has been tremendous. The car is a pure joy, the interior is gorgeous, the power is exceptional, the handling is out of this world. So the ownership in these 4 years has been worth every penny I've spent, in my opinion. I love the car, I love driving it, I love looking at it, it gets tons of compliments, and it's a rare car. You don't rarely see Panameras driving around, especially the first generation. So the ownership on this car has been fantastic. It has been a joy to drive and a joy to own, and it's been worth every single penny, in my opinion. Alright, well there you have it. I hope you found the information in this video useful and informative, and if you're considering a used Panamera, you have any questions, please hit me up in the comments. I'm more than willing to help you out. Thanks again for watching my video. Please browse my channel for my other content and smash that subscribe button. Thanks again for watching.